did it, Joe. You're going to be the next president of the United States.
We have a winner. On tonight's special edition of 12 News at 5, NBC News projects Joe Biden as the president-elect of the United States, defeating President Donald Trump in the 2020 election. According to NBC News, Democrats won back the blue wall in the upper Midwest and Rust Belt, with Pennsylvania's 20 electoral votes as a tipping point and Nevada's 6 electors as the cherry on top. You will notice, though, several states have yet to be called, and that includes Arizona. However, looking at tonight's current results, Biden continues to lead in Arizona, although his lead has shrunk throughout the day. We're going to go now to Team 12's Tracy Potts. She's in Wilmington, Delaware, with the latest on this historic moment.
No words, the initial reaction from Joe Biden's campaign as a projected win in Pennsylvania put him over the top with 273 electoral votes. Biden, after 4 days of vote counting, becomes president-elect of the United States. Running mate Senator Kamala Harris becoming the nation's first female vice president. Last night, he predicted this moment.
We're going to win this race with a clear majority of the nation behind us.
The Biden team said it was just a matter of time. There was immediate celebration near the White House at Black Lives Matter Plaza. President Trump, who spoke last on Thursday,
if you count the legal votes, I easily win.
Tweeted earlier today, I won this election by a lot. In a statement, the president's campaign declared this election is far from over, promising more legal challenges.
He intends to fight.
Multiple sources tell NBC the president has no plans to immediately concede. The victory celebration that had been planned for earlier this week now set to happen here this evening. In a statement, the Biden-Harris campaign says it's time for America to unite and to heal. Vice President-elect Kamala Harris simply tweeting, "We did it, Joe." Tracy Potts, NBC News, Wilmington, Delaware.
Thank you, Tracy. And tonight we have a look at the future first couple. Dr. Jill Biden shared this photo on Twitter shortly after Joe Biden was projected as the presidential winner. Obviously a very proud moment for the couple as Dr. Biden holds a sign covering the word Vice, while the president-elect is wearing a hat that says, "We did it, 46." As hail to the chief, Joe Biden's projected victory over President Trump has sparked celebrations in cities across the country. Hundreds of thousands of Americans cheering, dancing, playing music, sharing their excitement any way they can. Some chose to come together in large groups, while others opted for a more socially distant celebration, stepping out on their balconies to cheer alongside their neighbors. Now, those who have backed Biden are also celebrating right here in Arizona, although it is still unclear which candidate will earn Arizona's 11 electoral votes. Team 12's Nyala Charles takes a look at some of their reactions.
This Arizona man popping a bottle to celebrate news of former Vice President Joe Biden being projected as president-elect. The moment comes as a hard-fought one for Emily Klein, who worked to turn Arizona blue with Progress Arizona.
Absolutely thrilled. I mean, to be able to say the words President Biden, it is incredible. It has been a really long journey to get here.
Jim Helfgott says as an LGBTQ ally, the moment represents a new chapter in which equality can be restored.
To know that we can now look forward to 4 and hopefully 8 years of policies that will be inclusive and that will secure rights and equality for everybody is a huge moment for the LGBTQ community.
Together, they say they are getting ready to walk into a new America under President-elect Joe Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris, the first woman to ever hold that title.
Hopefully, we're going to get our soul and our identity back.
That was Nyala Charles reporting. Now, while Joe Biden supporters are using this time to celebrate this historic win, President Trump says this election is far from over. He released a written statement shortly after Biden was declared president-elect. The statement reads in part that the president's campaign will start prosecuting our case in court to ensure election laws are fully upheld and that the rightful winner is seated. The president goes on to say the American people are entitled to an honest election, and that means counting all legal ballots and not counting any illegal ones. President Trump's supporters are following his lead in the Valley tonight, not giving up. They are gathered outside of the Maricopa County Elections Office to make sure all votes are counted. Team 12's Bianca Bono joins us live from the scene. And Bianca, it seems like tensions are running high tonight.
Yeah, Mitch, it's interesting. The largest group of President Trump supporters we've seen all week comes on the same day that NBC News projects Joe Biden will be the next president of the United States. Now, these protesters claim this election is being stolen from them, alleging voter fraud and ballot fraud, despite there being any evidence of irregularities in our election. It's why they've ended up here outside the county elections department for the fourth consecutive day, where those votes, of course, are being counted. But earlier today, this was the scene outside the state capitol. Hundreds of people, both from Arizona and out of state, demanding a fair election, claiming it has not been so thus far. Again, according to top state leaders in Arizona, there is no evidence of ballot fraud or election fraud. One of the many speakers at that protest, Boris Epshteyn, an attorney with the Trump campaign. Take a listen to what he had to say.
And my message to these wonderful people is that President Trump is gaining in Arizona. He's going to win Arizona. His deficit is down to just 20.5 thousand.
And guys, former Vice President Biden has repeatedly said in his campaigning that his goal is to unite this divided country. Well, what we are seeing right here in our own backyard today is an example of how difficult that may be. We're live in Phoenix. Bianca Bono, 12 News.
Thank you, Bianca. With all of these new developments, the biggest question tonight is what is next? President Trump is threatening legal action against several states. While these lawsuits are expected, many of you are wondering who is fitting the bill. Team 12's Evan Koslov has that answer.
The Verify team is working around the clock to debunk election misinformation. 5 viewers emailed us wondering who's going to foot the bill for all these lawsuits. Take this one from Gwen Nykirk in Hagerstown, Maryland. Will taxpayers pay for the lawsuits being filed over the election results? So let's verify. Our sources here are the Federal Election Commission and Brendan Fisher, the director of the Federal Reform Program at the Campaign Legal Center. The FEC does allow campaigns and political party committees to use campaign funds to pay for election-related lawsuits. Fisher says that they could use leftover money from campaigning, or they could set up a legal fund, which both have.
The president and the Republican National Committee will use campaign funds and the political parties' funds to pay for these lawsuits. Taxpayers will not be paying for the president's post-election litigation.
Fisher tells us that if a candidate were to use taxpayer dollars, it would break ethics laws. But there is a caveat here. The states may be indirectly on the hook.
The states that the president is suing may incur some costs in defending themselves against that litigation.
And Fisher tells us that that would be money coming from state taxes, which is the case with any lawsuit against a state. So we can verify that false. Taxpayers will not have to directly cover lawsuits filed by President Trump. However, states, aka the taxpayer, might incur some costs in responding to these lawsuits. With your Verify, this is Evan Koslov.
And with that dose of truth, we move on now to former Arizona Senator Jeff Flake, who joins us now via Zoom. Senator Flake, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for joining us for the second day in a row.
Glad to be here.
Well, you mentioned yesterday, Senator, that President Biden, once he is inaugurated, will lead from the center. So what does that mean to you?
Well, he's likely going to have a Republican Senate to deal with. And so you have divided government. That means you have to lead from the center. Fortunately, Joe Biden has a lot of experience reaching across the aisle. He's done that for much of his career, 36 years in the Senate. So he has experience doing that. And, as a conservative, I like my government civil, slow, and boring. And so I think we're in for better government, frankly.
So you have worked directly with Vice President Biden, I should say President-elect Biden. So what is it like working with him in a legislative capacity?
Well, yes, I did work with him, in particular on immigration reform. We negotiated the bipartisan bill in 2013. That was when Republicans didn't have the White House or the Senate, but we were dealing, with on that issue in a very bipartisan manner because the Republicans control the House. We knew it had to be a bipartisan bill, and Vice President Biden knew how to work with us on that. because he has much experience with it. So I think you're going to see him reach across the aisle from the very beginning. He's going to need to, and that'll be good for the country.
Now, Politico had a story recently, and I would call it pretty hopeful. It was about a genuine working relationship, even perhaps a friendship between Joe Biden and Mitch McConnell, because they also have worked together in the Senate for decades. And you were there. So how would you characterize the relationship between the president-elect and the Senate Majority Leader?
Well, you know, there's a saying in Washington that you never question your colleague's motives if you know the names of his or her children. And long-term relationships in the Senate, you know each other's families. You work not just in the Senate, but you travel together, maybe overseas, and you develop a deep trust. And even if you have wildly different philosophies, once you know and trust each other, it's much easier to work together. So I would expect to see a better compromise and a better period of government coming up.
And it's very common for a president-elect to say, hey, on day one, I will blah, blah, blah. And very few short of Franklin Roosevelt actually get things done. You know, his 100 days is kind of an outlier. What do you think is possible for the Biden administration?
Well, we're going to need to do something on our structural deficit. A $3 trillion deficit, you can't go on forever that way. But a most immediate import, obviously, is getting a hold of this virus. We're going to hopefully get toward the phase of vaccine distribution. That's going to be a Herculean effort to get that done in a manner that is done quickly and to the right people first. And then the economy, getting the economy back on track. Congress will obviously be negotiating another coronavirus bill of some type. And then our foreign policy. We've got to mend relationships with our allies. If we're going to be able to take on China in trade and security issues, we need our allies with us. And we've neglected a lot of those relationships for a while. So those are some of the most immediate things that we need to deal with.
All right, Senator Jeff Flake, he represented the state of Arizona for years, and thank you very much for giving us some of your day. I appreciate it.
Good to be here.
Moving on to battleground Arizona, it is home to some of the country's hottest races, and that includes the fight for the U.S. Senate. Mark Kelly is still holding strong against Republican incumbent Martha McSally. The latest ballot count shows that Kelly has an 85,000 vote lead, but sources close to McSally's campaign say that candidate is not yet ready to concede. Arizona voters also approved two key initiatives providing more funding for education and legalizing recreational marijuana. Prop 207 allows anyone over the age of 21 to possess up to 1 ounce of marijuana. They're also allowed to grow up to 6 plants. If you want to buy marijuana from a dispensary, you'll have to wait until next year. Experts say March is the earliest that buyers without a medical marijuana card will be able to purchase pot. The proposition also allows those convicted of certain weed-related crimes to petition for their records to be expunged, and that will start in July of next year. Prop 208 is also known as Invest in Ed. It'll increase funding for teachers and education programs in Arizona through a tax increase. The 3.5% surcharge only applies to households making more than $500,000 each year, or individuals making half of that. Be sure to join us tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. for Sunday Square Off. Only on 12 News, Bram Resnick will have an exclusive one-on-one interview with Cindy McCain. You can watch it live here on 12 News and on 12news.com or on the free 12 News app. As always, Sunday Square Off airs Sunday mornings at 8 a.m. and that's followed by Today in AZ. Now, the lawsuit over the use of Sharpies to mark ballots here in Arizona is officially over. Today, the attorney for the plaintiffs, who had claimed that the use of permanent markers kept their ballots from being read by tabulation machines, filed a motion to dismiss the lawsuit without prejudice. A hearing had been scheduled on the matter for Friday, but that's not happening anymore. Secretary of State Katie Hobbs, the Maricopa County Elections Department, and even the state's Republican Attorney General all came to the conclusion that Sharpies did not cause ballots to not be counted. Now, the plaintiffs have come to that same conclusion, so Sharpie Gate, folks, is officially over. But the Trump campaign today filed another lawsuit in Maricopa County claiming that poll workers may have, through lack of familiarity with voting machines, canceled out thousands of votes in Maricopa County. The suit claims that poll workers were instructed wrongly to cancel out messages showing an overvote. The canceling of the overvote message, according to the lawsuit, canceled legitimate votes entirely. The suit claims that a proper counting of these votes would win the state of Arizona for President Trump. Suit was just filed about an hour ago. And coming up later in the show, we will have a live interview with Secretary of State Katie Hobbs. We'll be asking her about these alleged voting issues. Our Decision 2020 coverage is far from over, but we want to get to the other big story of the night, weather. Jamie, you are tracking a storm system that could bring rain down here to the valley and snow to other parts of Arizona.
Yes, there's at least a chance that we pick up a little bit of light rain in the valley, but snow in the high country definitely looking like it'll be a big impact. And there's the storm system itself still dropping to the southeast. It will sit over the state of Arizona through Sunday and much of Monday. It is bringing a cool down. It is bringing precipitation. It's also bringing wind. We're going to continue to see isolated rain over the southeast corner of the state, extending into the eastern high country and across the rim, and already starting to pick up what might be rain, trying to turn over to snow. You might get a little wintry mix going on around the Flagstaff area and even into the northwest part of the state. The accumulation so far, according to radar, has been rather minimal, but this is just the start of everything, and it continues to build, especially as we get to Sunday evening right into Monday morning. Temperatures across the state, 40s and a few 50s mixed in for the high country. Flagstaff sitting at 38, Prescott at 46, Globe at 60, upper 60s, low 70s right now around the lower deserts. Tucson at 76, Lake Havasu City at 66, and the 24-hour turnaround in temperatures, this is just the start of it. We've cooled down. We're mild today. We will start to feel cold coming up. But you can see it's a good 10 to almost 30 degrees colder in many parts of Arizona now than this time just yesterday. And the winds are still howling, especially in the northeast corner of the state down towards Tucson and Nogales. Some strong winds into the northwest part of the state. The wind gusts eclipsing the 40-mile-per-hour mark in many locations. Seeing some strong winds even around the valley. So our wind advisory will stay in place till about 6 o'clock. So maybe another hour or so. And then we'll start to feel those winds dying down. It will still be breezy tonight. It will be windy again tomorrow. And there's a little concern that some of those isolated showers and thunderstorms, especially looking to the eastern high country, may produce some strong wind gusts. So this severe weather, the Severe Prediction Center has moved us to a marginal risk. And again, looking to a very isolated part of the state. And those strong winds also generating some blowing dust. So blowing dust advisory until 7 o'clock tonight. And that's going to be primarily for most of Pinell County. High winds for tomorrow, again around the high country. Those wind gusts of 30 to 40. And around the valley, the winds pick up into the evening hours as we get to about 15 miles an hour. And those temperatures, only about to the mid-60s, starting out in the 50s. You'll find more 40s and 30s for much of the high country tomorrow. And then you throw in the winter weather advisories into tomorrow morning for Mojave County, upwards of 6 inches of snow at 5,000 feet or higher, and still looking for the rim, eastern high country, and up into around the plateau. So for tonight, showers continue for a little bit longer. There'll be some minor snow accumulation, but it's Saturday, 5 o'clock into the early morning hours of Monday. We'll have the snowfall, and we're going to have some rain in the southeast corner of the state as well. So really look into Sunday for the big turnout with snowfall, but a little bit tonight, and then it ramps up into tomorrow evening into Monday morning. And again, for the valley, we're going to look towards those evening hours to maybe pick up a little bit of rain. I want to show you right now what's going to be happening. Probably 1/10 of an inch or lighter in terms of rainfall. Here's your 7-day forecast, and cold is coming up after we get through tomorrow with our windy conditions and mainly dry conditions. Maybe a 70 this time next week, Mitch.
Thank you, Jamie. Looks certainly a lot nicer than it was in June. Hey, we would love it if you would help us track this storm, please. Share some photos and videos on the 12 News app. You can select the Near Me tab, then click on Share with Us. It's a great way to see what others have already shared in your area, and it keeps you connected. It has been a wild year weather-wise, especially for wildfires. Just felt like there wasn't any relief this entire summer. Team 12's Crystal Henderson takes a look at why we are seeing such a destructive fire season.
Arizona's amazing landscapes take you from dusty deserts to our lush forests and everything in between. But all of these beautiful views are at the mercy of what's becoming longer and fiercer fire seasons. Where I am now, winter rains and an early snowmelt have led to all this overgrown brush. It's all dried out due to lack of monsoon rainfall and deteriorating drought reinforced by rising temperatures. As the climate warms, wildfire season is becoming more dangerous. In fact, climate trends are turning it into a year-long threat, especially in the West, where hotter and drier has been the theme. Recent research found that in federal forest lands in the West, large wildfires are now 5 times more frequent and burn areas 10 times bigger than in the past. Not only are we getting hit with more fires that are exploding in size, but they're also becoming more aggressive and destructive as more homes are going up in high-risk areas. Wind is also an X factor that can really give flames life. Since heat rises, fires race faster uphill, preheating the area ahead and spreading the flames at ludicrous speeds. Firestorms can consume up to a football field every second, with temps reaching up to 1,500 degrees. The smoke shoots up high into the sky and can even travel thousands of miles away, messing with air quality and weather elsewhere. Smoke is loaded with toxic pollutants dangerous to our health. Nearly 90% of wildfires are sparked by humans. Common causes include unattended campfires, cigarette butts, and things like chains on vehicles. So we need to do our part. Beyond that, other solutions include thinning overgrown forests, restrict building in high-risk fire zones, and reduce our carbon footprint. But until these efforts catch up with the runaway wildfire potential, haunting scenes like this could become a more common reality for many.
Thank you, Crystal. New tonight, White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows has the coronavirus. It is unclear if he's showing any symptoms, but a fellow White House employee says Meadows told people earlier in the election that he had the virus, but it was not clear when he first tested positive. Meadows was in close proximity to the first family and several Trump campaign officials in the past few days. He was also at the White House election night party on Tuesday. This is the latest person in the Trump administration to test positive for the virus. The president and the first lady both had the virus in October. Here in Arizona, the State Department of Health Services is reporting more than 2,000 new cases of coronavirus. The significant spike in cases is worrying health leaders of a second wave of COVID heading into the winter months. Sadly, more than 6,100 Arizonans have died from the virus since the start of this pandemic. A big change at Litchfield Elementary School District because of the coronavirus. Students will return to remote learning full-time on Monday. Team 12's Matt Uris joins us with parents' reactions and what the school district is saying.
And it's a bummer because my husband works from home, so he kind of gets stuck with the kids at home every single day.
Parents reacting after getting word that schools in Litchfield Elementary School District will go back to distance learning on November 9th because of a spike in COVID-19 cases.
I wish they would have just left it distance learning until it was 100%, like we're done with this COVID situation. Let's go back to school.
The district says cases have worsened since last week as the positivity rate surpasses 7%. Additionally, its cases per 100,000 are within the substantial risk or red range, according to benchmarks set by the school system and state's health department. While safety is obviously paramount, one parent says this uncertainty in the schedule is frustrating and the school should stick with a plan.
Instead of, let's try hybrid, okay, let's try in person for a week. Never mind, the numbers are too high. Everybody go back to distance learning.
As the schools close, open, and close again, parents are left reacting on the fly, forced to rearrange work schedules, establish childcare, and stay on top of their kids' virtual class schedule.
And it makes it hard, obviously, to juggle everything.
The district says remote learning will remain until further notice, and there will not be an update until after Thanksgiving. Matt Uris, 12 News.
There's a lot happening in the world of sports this weekend. The Cards take on the Dolphins. Arizona's top college teams finally get to suit up. Well, one of them does. And NASCAR drivers are flocking to the Valley for the Cup Series this weekend. But there is another sporting event you don't want to miss. It takes place on the water. Team 12's Rachel Cole shows us drag boat racing out in the West Valley.
It was super cool. Annette Ogle cheering on her husband Jack.
He went 90 miles an hour. That's my baby. Yes!
It's Jack's first time out here at Hidden Lake, where more than 70 boats compete for bragging rights.
But he's probably on a massive adrenaline rush right now.
Yeah. Organizers say the need for speed is real as spectators look on.
Even on a windy day, go rip down the lake at 175 miles an hour. We had one go yesterday, 5-second quarter mile. So a lot of fun, lots of action, just ripping horsepower. So it's a lot of fun out here.
With a 1,000-foot stretch and only 10 seconds to get to the finish line, you can bet hearts are pumping.
Adrenaline from these boats, I mean, it gets you going when they take off for sure.
The event lasts all weekend and includes fun for the whole family.
It's a great place to enjoy your family and friends and be out here, by the lake. And it's like, a lot of people don't know. It's like, we're in Buckeye. Every time you say, like, you guys are in Buckeye? There's a lake in Buckeye? Yes, there's a lake in Buckeye.
Rachel Cole, 12 News.
Turning back to Decision 2020, Arizona Secretary of State Katie Hobbs is here with us now. Secretary Hobbs, thank you for joining us again. I know you're very busy, so thanks for making time for us.
Thanks for having me.
Now, the question I think is on the mind of most Arizonans is, where do we stand with the ballot count and when will it be done? I know I sound like a broken record, but we got to keep asking.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. People want the answers. And so we're at about 120,000 ballots left in the state. Roughly a little bit less than half of those are provisional ballots. And so I think it's important to keep in mind that not all the provisional ballots will actually end up being counted. They're provisional for a reason. The election officials have to determine if they're actually able to be counted or not. So the remaining regular ballots, most of what's left, I don't think we're going to see any more really big uploads from Maricopa County like we've been seeing, because these are all ballots that require a lot of details to get them tabulated. And instead of just being able to feed them in the tabulator, it's requiring manual labor. They need duplication because they're a braille or large print ballot or a military overseas ballot, or the ballots that the tabulator couldn't read. And so there's duplication involved in all of that to get those ballots able to be tabulated. And so we're going to see the rest of the results, I think, trickling in over the next couple of days. And then there's also a cure period for some of the ballots that lasts until Tuesday. So some of those ballots won't be able to be counted until after that cure period. And that is for if you're issued a conditional provisional ballot, for example, you have to show valid ID for that ballot to be counted. Or on those ballots that are mailed in and they have mismatched signatures, then if you're contacted about that, you have until Tuesday to rectify that signature. And so we're looking at kind of a slow slog over the next few days to get those counted. And I think we'll be close to having some finality in the next few days.
All right, so it sounds like even the normal process is going to take a long time, and that's before we even get to the lawsuits. The lawsuit over voting by Sharpie was dismissed, but the Trump campaign has now filed another lawsuit saying that poll workers were inadvertently canceling out people's votes on Election Day. And Secretary Hobbs, you are named in that lawsuit. So are you familiar with this overvote error that these machines are giving, according to the suit? And can you describe what training the poll workers receive on those machines?
The poll workers are trained to manage the equipment, and I can assure you that we did not. Maricopa County has already said this in the information they provided to the Attorney General related to the other issue, the Sharpie issue, that there were no ballots with overvotes that were canceled on Election Day. They've already verified that. And so we just got the lawsuit, haven't had a chance to really dig into it, but it looks to be just a repackage of the Sharpie lawsuit and really something that's intended to drag things out and delay the official canvass of the results.
And so you believe that this new lawsuit is just as dead on arrival as that Sharpie lawsuit might have been?
Well, I mean, it's certainly drafted a little bit better than the previous one. But I just really believe that the claims are baseless and that at this point, folks are grasping at straws.
Now, where do you get these poll workers? Because, folks are asking about these bipartisan vote witnesses that are helping to tabulate the votes and witnessing the votes being tabulated. What about the folks in the polls that are helping you? Because they are mentioned significantly in this new lawsuit.
Yep. So a lot of poll workers, they show up and they do this year after year after year. And if you'll remember, before the election, we did a big push statewide to recruit poll workers because we are concerned. A lot of poll workers tend to be in their 60s and 70s. We didn't want to put people at risk, and there were a lot of people who didn't want to put themselves at risk, and so they decided not to be poll workers. So the counties have a process of bringing these folks in, getting them trained up on what their roles are. And so there are requirements across the state in every county that the poll workers who are working the polls have to be bipartisan, and there has to be an even split in every polling place, so that, and that's part of how we ensure the fairness of the process, that there's not any polling place that has all Democrats or all Republicans. It's mixed, and it's mixed on purpose so that nobody can claim that one party or the other was cheating. And then they go through training, obviously, and usually there's more seasoned poll workers that would be placed in polling places with less seasoned poll workers. There's always a structure of, people are assigned roles. There's supervisors so that they're the ones assigned to troubleshoot and things like that. And then they draw from the same pool of applicants to get these folks in who come and do the adjudication boards that you're seeing right now in the tabulation centers, looking at those ballots that the tabulators aren't able to read.
And I have one final question for you. We don't have much time left, but one party claiming the other is cheating, that's exactly what's going on. It's happening from the president himself. It's happening in the streets of Phoenix right now. How do you handle accusations like that?
Well, I'm trying to, stay focused on the task at hand, and that's making sure that we are getting these ballots counted, which is exactly what the protesters are asking for. There's transparency in the process every step of the way from well before the election ever happens, in terms of the equipment and all the things we do to ensure the security. And so, we're counting the ballots. We're required to by law. We would be even if these protests weren't happening. And so I just think at this point, they decided they didn't like the results and they wanted to complain about them. And there's really no basis to any claims that they're making.
All right. She is the Secretary of State of State 48, Katie Hobbs. Thank you very much for your time, Ms. Hobbs.
Thank you.
And our Decision 2020 coverage continues tonight on 12 News at 9. We will see you then. Thanks for joining us.